Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth. And Shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, especially the 144,000, who consist of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, today is January the 13th. It's Tuesday morning, 2026, and as you've seen quite clearly, Apostle Sahar has been telling you that the Most High is going to turn up the faucet, and that's what he's done in the last 10 to 12 days. And we're heading towards the the climax of Jacob's trouble. We're actually already in that. We've been telling you for a year. We've been saying this for a year, easily, maybe a little bit longer. That probably about a year and a half. That basically we're in the time of Jacob's trouble, but we were at the beginning. And the scripture, for example, the beginning of sorrows, that went out for a little while. But now we've definitely gone. We're getting further deeper into this Jacob's trouble scenario. So, a time that's never been seen. It's going to be a time like that's never been seen before on the face of this earth. World War III, uproars of the people. Second Ezra's 15, 16. You've got the MOTB. It's going to be made mandatory, so that involves economic crash, implement of a new system, digital economic system, a device being placed under the skin in order to use that. You can have obviously earthquakes and all these other types of, what they would call natural disasters happening over the earth. So we're heading into that now, and we've been saying this for about a year, year and a half. We're at the beginning of Jacob's trouble. You look around today, the landscape, especially since the start of 2026, and it's very evident, it's very clear that this is Jacob's trouble. The scriptures talk about, then they should know that there has been a prophet amongst them. And really, if your eyes are open now, you'll know who the prophets are, because it's all good. You can argue. You've got people arguing, for example, about the MOTB. These people say it's this, and these people say it's that, and those people over there say it's something else. But there's only one group of people that are lining up world politics and showing you them out of the scriptures, and then they're happening as we speak. We're literally doing the job of prophets in real time. So, we told you a year and a half ago, this is Jacob's trouble. If you didn't believe it, if you had weak faith, we'll take a look around today, and what do you see? And so now you have to believe this is definitely Jacob's trouble. Stirring up uproars of the people in pretty much all these countries, every continent in the world. You've got uproars of the people. You've got wars in many different places. Donald Trump came out this week. He was making threats towards Greenland. You look at this map, for example, here. When you read of obviously World War III, it pretty much centers around two places. You've got the Levant down here on the right hand side where the mouse is, and just below Iraq, and then you've got obviously America, Babylon the Great. The book of Revelation 17, chapter 17, I think it's verse 16, speaks of the beast hating the whore. So the beast representing EU and NATO. So the EU part over here will eventually hate the whore, which is America, and become World War III. Despite whatever alliances that they've had in the past, come World War III, nuclear ICBMs will be shot from Europe onto America. Same from coming from China. You can see there's South Korea just there, and so just above that, if I go in closer, it will come up North Korea. So North Korea will definitely be shooting ICBMs on America. So America will be attacked from many different angles. And what Donald Trump's saying at the minute is, he wants to take over Greenland to create a buffer between themselves and Russia. What they're doing is they're playing games with the world, because the world would not, most of the world, we look at the map like this. So you say, oh yeah, he wants a buffer between America and Russia. But when you go to the back end of Russia, what you find on its doorstep, you find Alaska. So it's just all fun and games from Donald Trump. Now, there's, like I said, there's a lot been happening. There's things with ICE, for example. I could really go into all these different things, but the bottom line is it's the banking elites. The banking elites are pulling his strings. The banking elites are creating a third world war, and it's to reset the system. They're using America to do it, and the small hats. Scriptures tell us the small hats will bring about this third world war. But reading the scriptures, knowing it, this is what we do. We try and work out, through the Spirit. We want to be guided. We want to be warned. Obviously, no man knows the day or the hour when the Most High will send His Son back to bring about the destruction of America and to deliver the elect of the children of Israel. But we're watching, as Yahushua told us to do. We don't want to be caught out by the thief. So we're trying to work it out, and when you go back to what I said in the previous video, we work these things out through the Spirit. We get that guidance. That's how we were able to tell you a year and a half ago, look, this is Jacob's trouble. If you're slightly weak in the faith and you're not too sure, we'll take a look around today. But before I get into that deeper, just quickly, because it kind of relates to what I'm talking about today. So in the previous video, I really wanted to speak about the MOTB, and then I ended up speaking about Anthony Joshua. I didn't really plan to do that. I kind of had it in my mind, and then when I sat down and I got everything together to make my video, I decided not to bring Anthony Joshua into it. But then lastminute.com, you know how the Spirit works, she says, makes you think, now I better bring it in. So I brought it in, and I was showing how there was judgments gone out. You've got Israelite in the car, false worship, false idol worship, so on and so forth. I didn't really know what the deal was, but I just spoke on it because obviously the Spirit kind of prodded me to include it in the video. So I kind of brought it up and I kind of mentioned it, said a couple of words, and then I moved on to the MOTB. So this is a side note. I'll go back into the main video in a minute. So when you think of the algorithm of YouTube, and you think, oh, I better not say that word because it'll listen to the word, and then it'll highlight it, and then it'll ban my video, or do this or that. This algorithm, this AI, is on a much deeper level. So when it listens to your words, it fully understands what you're talking about. Right. So what did I do in the previous video? I spoke about the Spirit. I spoke about your spirit in yourself, and then I spoke about other spirits coming, from the heavens, from the spirit realm, and they're sent to you. They attach themselves in your mind through your third eye. They manifest as thoughts, and so you have these thoughts, and some people, most people, they act upon them, and obviously with the spiritual discernment we're given, we're able to discern that that spirit that's been put on that person is comes with a righteous message, or that one doesn't come with a righteous message, so on and so forth. That's what I spoke about. I spoke about false idol worship, so on and so forth. So the algorithm of YouTube understood exactly what I was talking about. It understood it perfectly, and because you try to explain these things, and you go from here to there to this way to that way, and you follow this route, and then you think the people even understand what you're even saying. But all that AI understood it, and so what AI did was present me this video. I didn't search for this; it just popped up on my feed. When you look at it here, it says how Anthony Joshua converted me into a Muslim. It's AJ's late friend, Latif Ayodele Lats. So this guy here, he's the one that got decapitated in the car. And this thing was only like 8 minutes. So I thought, well, it's not gonna, I'm not gonna really waste my life away by watching it. So I watched it as it popped up on the feed, and lo and behold, what does he talk about? He talks about when he was young, seeing spirits, hearing voices, and his sister used to see spirits. And they were born Roman Catholic. He's Iranian, but he's born into a Roman Catholic family. Work that one out. I don't know how that works out, but that's what it is. And then his sister's converted to Islam because she's seeing spirits, this, that, and the other. And then but he doesn't quite convert there. And then obviously, as he gets older, he gets to know Joshua. He moves into the area where Joshua is living. Joshua is he's on tag. He's at that time, so when you've got the bracelet around your ankle, when you're monitored, your movements are monitored. You've got curfew. You can leave the house at maybe 9 o'clock in the morning. You've got to be home by 5. So Joshua had one of those, for whatever crime he did, and he got caught, and now he's on what you call tag. So the same old stoppy story. Joshua is trying to turn his life around, so he goes to the church every day. He's going to Christianity, to a Christian church. And then obviously this guy here, Lats, him being a Roman Catholic, he's now living in the area with Joshua. So he starts going to church with Joshua. And then one day, apparently, Joshua said to him, this church, we ain't really getting nothing out of it, which is, there's nothing in Christianity. So, you go there, it's very quick. Some people fall out of it because there's nothing there. There's nothing real about it. It's just all false narrative, so on and so forth. So apparently Joshua made the decision that they should go visit the mosque and then see what's going on down there. And this goes back to the Israelites, lost, looking for that connection with the Most High. Throughout the whole video, he keeps speaking about the one true God, the one true God. His sister kept telling him, if you go to Islam, you get the one true God. And eventually he went to Islam and he's got the one true God. Well, you didn't get the one true God. You missed it. And then the Most High took you out. So that's quite fascinating when you actually, well, to me it is, because I spoke about it and I didn't really know why I'm speaking about it. Like I said, I brought up the car crash. I brought up John 14, the Spirit working in your mind, left hand, right hand. And lo and behold, that's exactly what has happened with this particular person. So spirits have communicated with him. He's almost lost in a bubble where he's trying to find this Most High. He's going from religion to religion, and then eventually the Most High just decapitates him, takes him out in a horrible way at a young age. So I'll leave the link for this in the description box. It's only, like I say, it's only 8 minutes, but if you watch it and you think of what I said in the last video, it all makes perfect sense. So that, like I said in the previous video, you can, when you're working things out through the Spirit, you're where am I going back to? When you're working things out through the Spirit, there's different ways. So sometimes you piece things together. Sometimes the Spirit guides you. Like I just said there, it guides you to prod you in a direction. Talk about this. You don't really know why you're talking about it. You speak about it, and then something happens, and then you realize, okay, that's why you wanted me to speak about it. You have no idea why you went that way. You just went that way because the Spirit guides you, and then it makes sense at the end. Sometimes you're shown things clearly. I've had a visitation, for example. I've been shown a vision. I've been shown in different various incidences. And that's what leads me to make these videos. I've explained many times before how I came into the truth. It's 2018. You're talking 8 years ago now, January 2018. It's roundabout now, to be fair, middle of January. I don't know the date, but it's got to be around this first, around the 10th. It's like the 10 to 20 of January anyway. Yeah, so then I had a visitation from an angel. You would know that angel as Yahweh Shai. He showed me this earth, the picture of the map of the earth. Now the map of the earth was like this, what you see on the screen, but it was upside down. So, America here was actually over here. You see, like Brazil, for example, down there, that was actually top right over here. So everything was upside down. And in this area here appeared a huge pyramid, a couple of pyramids, like a pyramid and a little pyramid behind it. So I knew, don't forget it's upside down. So even though I'm showing you here on the map, it's actually over here. It's upside down. And then a pyramid appeared. And the first thing that came out of the pyramid was a branch, and a wild olive tree, if you like. The way I've done videos on it before, the way that the branch grew and the way it split, I've looked it up before. It's the way that a tree would grow, as opposed to flowers. There's a slight difference in there. And it grew over the earth, so it came out of this particular area here, obviously upside down over there, but the root came out, and then it spread over the earth, over all these particular different areas. And every time it got to a new junction and it split into two, there was a new religion, a new type of false worship. And then it grew again, these two branches grew, then they stopped and split into two more, so now you got four. And then it showed another split, another religion. And then eventually it stopped here on the edge of the sea. This is all covered with this branch. It's grown out everywhere, and it's upside down. Keep reminding you that. So from there, one branch stretched over to South America, and then then the second one stretched over to America itself. But again, this is upside down. So I saw, going from there to Brazil was actually going from there up to Brazil, and then from there over to America. And then the next thing was that a sword went through America. So it cut through America. So I knew at that point that the Most High, because, this angel came, as soon as it appears, you know that this is a heavenly figure. I knew it was a son of the Most High, so you're not going to really sit there and argue and debate what he's showing you. As soon as he appears, you realize who it is, and then he shows you what he shows you. So I knew from that point onwards that America was going to be taken out at some point. That was what I have seen. I've seen that. I know that. I know that there's a son of the Most High because I've seen him. So all that kind of stuff, like scriptures talk about seeing is believing is the substance of things unseen, but obviously some things you have seen, so you don't actually believe in them, you actually know them, you're just waiting for them to occur. So that was one way in which the Spirit showed me what was going to happen. There was other things that happened in that vision, but they're not really that important at this moment. But when the vision disappeared, then Yahweh Shai flew away. When I say Yahweh Shai flew away, it was a figure of a person, if you like, but with wings, but a dark, shadowy figure, and he flew up over me, and he left, and went over my head. He's disappeared. So obviously, then you've now got a lot to think about. Next morning, I'm walking around, you're thinking about the things you saw, and this is before I've read the scriptures, understood what's in there. So I'm trying to contemplate what I was shown. Some other things came to your mind, to my mind. So Donald Trump. I said Donald Trump's the guy. This is in 2018, so this is in his first term, and so I knew he was a big thing. And I knew that the earth was going to shake. So Trump, and then the earth shaking. And I remember I was walking around looking. At one point when that when I had that thought, I remember looking at the pavement and just being fascinated, thinking that this whole earth is going to move. Again, you see, I don't know why I know these things. I just know that these things have been put into my mind, and so I got the idea that these things are going to happen. Further down the line, obviously, I found a teacher, GMS, the teacher of the scriptures, and then you realize, oh, everything I saw is written in the book. So then I move forward. In 2023, I made another video. What I would say, actually, going backwards slightly, is in 2018, obviously I had the vision. I knew Trump was a big player. I knew the ground was going to shake. But then, like, 2020 comes, and then Biden comes into power. So I was quite confused. You see, at this point, is like I say, there's some things you know because you've been shown, and these are direct things to wait upon. But then some things you're trying to work out. Is it this? Is it that? How does he do it? How do we get around to that point? So you're trying to work it out as you go along. So then like I say, you get confused. Donald Trump's not there, so you think not really sure what's going on. And then 2023 comes along. So January 2023, found an article. The small hats are gonna invade Iran by 2026 because they've got this bomb and they're going to have it built by then. This is what they said. So I said, look, this is it. And I kind of the spirit was kind of on me. I was saying, look, this thing is going to go down by 2026. It has to, because their enemy is Iran. We know it's all down to the bankers. They control everything behind the scene. They've got these presidents and prime ministers. The face of it. There's fighting and arguing between these nations, but really, it's the banking elites. They want to create a world war to create a financial reset. They want a reason to go into Iran and install their own banking system. They want to bring in the MOTB, so they need a war. They want to bring down the economy. Best way to break it from where we are at the minute is to go to war and start having to print money for weapons, and you'll quickly see inflation escalating on a daily basis while war is going on. You'll see it on the TV. So, depending on where you are. So, the banking elites are doing this. They've got like Donald Trump, throwing out these major statements, but everything's also a psyop. What you saw in Venezuela is a psyop. They show you people celebrating. Really, these people were like, they take footage from different places, people celebrating football matches, and they show it to you. And the same thing's happening in Iran. They've got this psyop where they're showing you that people are being killed and there's protesting in Iran, but we're going to look into that and we're going to see if that's really true. So they've got this going on at the minute, and this banking elites, like I say, but really it's the Most High controlling it. Like I said, in 2023, by 2026, they're going to go to war because supposedly Iran are going to have this bomb, this nuclear ICBM ready. I doubt whether they even have a nuclear ICBM because I struggle to believe anything that the Western media tell you, full stop. But yeah, fast forward to 2023. I said, look, you're going to get war by 2026. 10 months after that, October 2023, the small hats went into action. And you know what's happened from there. So from there, we started speaking about this. Jeremiah 49:20, therefore hear the counsel of Yahweh, that he have taken against Edom, and his purposes, that he have purposed against the inhabitants of Timan. So surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. So this is just this is 0 hour. When you look at this scripture, this is the 0 hour precept, Jeremiah 49:20, 0 hour. The term 0 hour in real life, because if you put 0 hour, it starts bringing you up these war games that people play, which is not what I want. I want it in reality. So the term 0 hour in real life is a military designation for the specific time a planned operation or attack is scheduled to begin. It says it is not a single universal war rule, but rather a widely used operational term. It says the concept has two primary real life meanings. It says military operations. In military terminology, 0 hour refers to precise moment an attack is launched or a major event is scheduled to take place. It says the related Z day or Z day is a specific day. This terminology helps coordinate complex large-scale operations across different units and locations. Famous example is the start of the Battle of Somme on July the 1st, 1916 at 7:30 a.m., which was its 0 hour. Historical turning point in Germany 1945. The term Stade Null, German for 0 hour, refers to the capitulation of Nazi Germany at midnight on May the 8th, 1945, and says an immediate post-war period. It symbolizes a new beginning for Germany, implying a total break from the Nazi past and the start of reconstruction a devastated country. So 0 hour. This is talking to you about 0 hour. Now, what it is, when I say talking about 0 hour, there's a process to it. War doesn't just happen overnight, and that's where the process started. So you've had this situation with Gaza, and what the small hats are doing. Pretty much they're blaming Iran for all these proxy wars. So that's been going on. All these people have been getting killed. You're not allowed to speak against it. But apparently, there's a problem with these, terrorists. So, we know that obviously it's just a psychological operation. We know the bottom line is the banking elites want to install their system in Iran. They want to bring about the MOTB. They want to bring a war. So they're doing that. The problem is this time it's going to, they've managed to do it, for example, World War One, World War Two, but this time it's going to capitulate upon them. You look into it at the minute. They're saying that there's like 4 different hotspots. So we've had this situation before where the world's been gearing up for these, like World War, but there's only been maybe 1 or 2 hotspots at the time. This time now we've got 4 hotspots. We've got South America, which we just seen with Venezuela, resources, so on and so forth. You've got the Far East, China. So they've got up here that's a hotspot for war to come up during World War III. Europe is a hotspot because of what Donald Trump. Well, because of Ukraine, Russia, so on and so forth, but also because of Trump. You see, Trump talking about Greenland now activates that prophecy, Revelation 17, of the beast hating the whore, which is America. So Europe's a hotspot. The Middle East is a hotspot because the Levant, that's where the main battle will be taking place. And you've got all these different hotspots, and this is where America are going to outstretch themselves. So, back to what I said. So, I got shown the vision in 2018. I know America will be taken out for definite. That's what I saw. And then the spirit guides you with, for example, Donald Trump, and the ground shaking, but it doesn't really make sense. And then you get presented with an article, and then by bringing that out, look, by 2026 they're going to start World War III, and 10 months after that, to me that's a signal. So that's saying, yeah, look, this is where I make it happen. So now we've gone from 2023 up to 2026 January, and you can see what's happening. What you're witnessing now in January 2023 is a contraction. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. It says, "For when they shall say, peace and safety. That's MAGA, Make America Great Again. These other smaller nations are following suit. For example, Britain, they want to build back Britain. And this immigration crisis across Europe, people are complaining our country's gone to ruin because of immigration. This is all back to, peace and safety. They want to fix these problems. You've got these people like Iran causing problems on the international scene, so on and so forth. Venezuela, they're blaming everything. They're blaming everything. Oh, we need to get Greenland because of Russia. So there's this massive, huge drive from America to police the world and do it their way and go against the law, go against the NATO, go against their own rules. And we're gearing up into that time. It says, for when they shall say peace and safety, it says, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. It says, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So when the woman with child turns up to the hospital and she says, I'm about to give birth, I don't know what's happening, my I can feel contractions. The first thing the midwife does is she starts to count the time between contractions. And I've done this previously. So you've got Donald Trump got voted in, last November? And just before that, in October, you had trouble with Iran and the small hats. You had missiles flying. So that was the introduction. You see, at that time, through the Spirit, I received another revelation. And that other revelation pretty much guided me to understand that Donald Trump was the last president of America. You see, that whole situation that I saw in 2018, seeing the world in the map upside down, understanding that Donald Trump was a big player, but then getting confused in 2020 when he came out of power, the ground moving, it all made sense. All of a sudden, through receiving one particular revelation last August, and then seeing Donald Trump get voted in November, it all made sense, because Apostle Tahar said that this man is the reincarnation of Nero. You look up Nero, you read what he's about, and you say bingo. So we've worked it all out. So this is how you get guided through the Spirit. Yeah, you can get shown things. So I get shown certain things, but then you still have to work certain things out. You still have to wait for certain things to fall into place to make sense. And you have to listen to other people with the Spirit, because they will give you information, and that will link up what you understand in many different aspects. And so here we are. You had a contraction in October 2024. I've mentioned this before. You had Donald Trump came into picture, the last president of America. I've been saying it since then. That was in November 2024. So October, there was that World War III contraction. But we told you that the MOTB has to come. October, so you had November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. That was 9 months. And then we had another contraction. And I made a video last June telling you this is another contraction. I told you, look, the last contraction was 9 months. We're at the beginning of Jacob's trouble. Here's your contractions. They've told you peace and safety, make America great again. They're running around the world saying, we need this, we need that, we need everything, because we will need to fix everything. Everybody's scratching their heads going, well, what's wrong with you people? You like breaking laws and all sorts. But they're using pseudo media articles to do it. A lot of these things you see on TV, they're not real. A lot of these things are fake. So in June, I said to you last June, I said, look, it's been 9 months. You've had a contraction. You had a contraction just before Donald Trump came in. And now we're starting the birth pains. And we've had another contraction. Bang on 9 months. That's 9 months is connected to how long it takes to have a baby, right? So I said to you in June, the next contraction is going to come 8 months or less. So from June, we had July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. So I said to you, by February, you're going to have a contraction, a World War III contraction, and that's what you're witnessing now. Donald Trump, see, it's come differently this time. It's not about Iran and and the small hats throwing missiles at each other. We're bored of that. If we see that again for the third time, we'll be like, come on, just do it already. How many times are you going to keep throwing these half-hearted missiles at each other? Just go all out. But that's not what it is. There's other things to bring into play. The Most High knows. I have to get the whore to the beast to hate the whore. So this contraction is a World War III contraction. What you're witnessing, but it's moving differently. It involved a couple of missiles in Venezuela. Supposedly, that's what they showed you. And this kidnap. I need Greenland. So now you've got the EU. You've got the beast. NATO are going, well, you're going to break our rules if you take Greenland. So you've got them on their toes, preparing for war. They go, well, what's going on here? These people like having this drastic change of heart, even though the banking elites. This is what it is. That's all the banking elites have to do: get hold of America and just do all this bullying, and they're creating the scenario for everybody to go to war. So everything that's going on now, at the minute, is a contraction. That's why the Most High has turned up the faucet January. I told you it's going to come in 8 months or less. We're on the 7th month since June. You had July, August, September, October, November, December, January. It's month number 7. And the contraction's here. And I'm not even sure if the contraction's finished. Because he's talking about Iran, and I'm like, okay, is that going to be part of this contraction? Or is it going to be part of the next contraction? But what you're seeing today, with this whole talk about, everybody's talking about World War III. Everybody's talking about World War III. Just like they were talking about World War III in June. Just like they were talking about World War III October 2024. But each time it gets more intense. And this time, the Most High has pulled this chess move. And he's got, the heart of the king, or his mind is in his hand. And he's guided him through the banking elites to go and do this, to escalate the situation. So from here, I'd say January, the next contraction has to come less than 7 months. You've had 9 months apart. I said it to you in June. The next one's going to come 8 months or less. It's come on the 7th month. And like I say, I don't even know if it's finished. It could just carry on and escalate. But this is definitely a contraction. So now the next one has to come in 6 months or less. And 6 months is July, basically. February, March, April, May, June, July. After that, July, 6 months. The next contraction would have to come within 5 months. That's August, September, October, November, December. So we're moving rapidly through these contractions, and the Most High just showed you. He doesn't have to wait the full 8 months. Just because the last contraction was 9 months, he doesn't have to make this one wait 8. It could be 7. And that's what it is. We're in the 7th month. He's seeing the contractions play out live and direct in real time. So, a combination of being shown direct information from the Spirit, from Yahushua, a combination of having to work certain stuff out for yourself, a combination of having to follow the elders and teachers to how they break down the scriptures and, what they see through the Spirit, for example, Nero Revidivus, and, you piece that all together and you're moving, as they say. So we're heading towards 0 hour, from Jeremiah 49 and 20. That was in 2023. October 2023, when what the small hats started to do in the Middle East. That was the activation of it, but then obviously there's a slow winding process. Like I've said many times before, what's the reason why this whole situation has been stretched out over the last 2 years is for the world to realize, the son of perdition to be revealed. So to be revealed, you have to do something drastically terrible in the face of the world for a very long time for everybody to go, no, you're definitely the wicked. And that's what the whole world are doing. we talk about the small hats, but but at the same time, these other nations, they're all realizing that the small hats are the problem. You take it to the top of that. You've got the banking elites. The banking elites, their little baby is the least of the flock. They've got America, that's their big bully on the block. They use that to create their scenarios, and they want to take you into a new world. Using this technology, but they're going to use war to do it. So this situation with Iran, see, this is the real thing. So this is what I'm waiting. Like I said, this. So now you're witnessing what you're witnessing at the minute is a contraction. We're waiting to get to 0 hour, where they start to implement these. This could be this year. 0 hour could very well be, for World War III could be 2026. But these small hats are using psyops. I mean, sorry, well, the small hats and America, they're using psyops to do it. You've got you probably heard of this, the Phase 7 Wars. Well, I put 7 Wars Bush refers to a claim made by former NATO Commander General Wesley Clark that after September the 11th attacks, the George W. Bush administration had a 5-year plan to attack and take out 7 countries. So you've got Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. And then, natural progression, you type in, well, which of the 7 wars spoken by Wesley Clark have been had? Iraq, Libya, Syria, Somalia, Sudan, but left, not yet, have they had wars with are Lebanon and Iran. Says that Iran has been subject of intense sanctions, cyber operations, and regional proxy conflicts, but it has not faced a direct full-scale US invasion or regime change operation as outlined in the alleged memo. So the memo, don't forget, it's all about the memo. Everybody's, you can look at this guy, he said this and she said that and they said that, but it's all down to the memo. So the memo is looking for a regime change, and that's the psyop that you're witnessing at the minute. Part of this contraction is Donald Trump talking about Greenland and stirring up the problem with the beast. It's also part of him, going down into South America for resources, showing how little respect they have for their own laws. This is all creating the problem. It's all, the son of perdition is being put on display. The Most High's got him in the shop window. And then, so again, they need to create this situation so they can get to 0 hour in the Middle East. They need to put all the cogs in place to be able to get to 0 hour. So you go back to Jeremiah 49:20, least of the flock drawing out other nations into World War III, and they keep holding a hand to America, saying they need to deal with Iran. Like I said before, 2026, I said that in 2023 they're going to invade Iran because that's their deadline. Iran are going to have their ICBM built by 2026. So by 2026 we need to be in there. Sometimes I wonder whether there even is an ICBM, because these people lie so much. You watch this particular video here, and he will go through what's happening in Iran. You see, they tell you on the Western media people are dying, and there's all these protests against the government. It's all bullshit. It's all lies. You to find out what's really happening, you're in the West. You're under their influence. The media, whatever you're given is given by them. You can't go to Iran. You haven't, unless you've gone to Iran and seen it. Then how do we know what you're seeing is the truth or not? So your best bet is to go to people that are in the East, and you can get news sources, information, so on and so forth. Now this particular video, see what they're telling you in America is that the people are protesting in Iran, and they're upset because they have to wear headscarves, and they don't like all the orders. They're fed up of all the stuff that the disgusting regime have told them to do, and they're protesting against it, and the regime are putting them to death, and now we're considering to go in and invade. That's the talk from the West, but the West are liars. They lie. They lie about everything. This footage here is from, apparently now. So it's apparently this is what they. Come on now. This is Esau. So what Esau's saying, part of his story, is that these people that are upset they're so upset in Iran, they're protesting. They're getting killed. They're getting put to death, and mosques are getting burnt down. How does that make logical sense? So you're a Muslim living in a Muslim country. You're protesting against your government. Your government's apparently putting you people to death because you're protesting. So your next step is to go to your God and then burn down your place of worship. And see in this video here, you can see it right here. Look, this man is kicking the Quran. There's a Quran there. He's kicking it. Now we know that the Quran doesn't have the truth, but you go to Iran and try and tell them that, and see how far you get. And that's what this man's doing here. He's bringing out evidence to show you that this is all psyop. Just as usual, CIA people have probably gone into the country. The CIA can send small hats in there that know the region, that can speak the language. They mingle in. So when these so-called protests start up, you've then got people going into the local mosques, pulling down Qurans off the floor, kicking them, and setting the place alight. Why would a Muslim person destroy the mosque when the beef is with the government? It don't make sense. And so this is back to the lies of America. So this video is good actually because he goes through quite a few different things. Hang on, you got this one in the mosque. I don't want to play it, obviously, if I don't deal with the copyright stuff, but I'll leave the link for this in the description box. But I would advise you to watch it. So for example, certain protests, and he's pointing out at the flags. He goes through various different things. There was a protest in the UK. Now that's a government building. That's a small hat building. And what he's saying is, if anybody in the world, he's right, if anybody in the world tried to get into that building, take down the flag and put up their own flag, they'd be brought down within minutes. They'd be shot, so on and so forth. But while this guy's here doing that, you've got pretty much police officers standing around watching, doing nothing. And he's basically saying that, they're allowing it to happen because they want to, they're creating the problem. Iran is the problem. So, normal day, you go up to the small hat embassy in the UK and you try and get on the building, and you see how far, how quick it is before they pull you down. And he goes into these, all these apparently footage of things getting burnt down. It's all BS. It's all they're playing you. They're playing you. You have to be careful with the media. Some of it is just pure lies. Most of it is pure lies. There's very little truth in there. There is truth in there. You have to pick the little bone, pick it out from the bones and piece it together. When you look at the mainstream media, you're going to come back with about 1 or 2% truth in there, and it's mingled amongst all this dirt. False images. It's very easy to just show you a false image and just talk about something and project images into your mind to give you a certain type of feeling. But what a lot of people are. So he does show pictures of protests in Iran currently, but they're people protesting pro-government, protesting against the other forces. He goes into Tommy Robinson. See, Tommy Robinson gets paid by the small hats. He's creating this problem in the UK against Christians and Muslims. But now he's over here, provoking certain situations in certain protests. You got to watch the video. This guy will explain it all. And when you start to realize that everything you've been told by Iran, about Iran, by America or the media, it's all a lie. But they have this plan, 7 world wars. They have a new economic system that they want to bring in. You look back at the list, you know, Lebanon and Iran. Iran has not been done yet. So, you know, Jeremiah 49 and 20 is 2026. He just had another contraction. Another video. So I'm going to leave 3 videos. I'll leave one. That's the Anthony Joshua one. You hear about that man hearing spirits and so on and so forth. I'll leave you that one there. He breaks down the psyop of Iran. Look, Trump weighs potential military intervention in Iran. So he weighs up this basically psyop and shows you how much of it is a psyop. But it's all part of that contraction. You know, I don't think they'll do anything with Iran just yet. That's what I was waiting to see. Are they going to do it this month, or are they going to wait for the next contraction? Maybe that will happen by July in the next contraction. You know, I'm just guessing. But it's an educated guess according to the spirit. So I'll leave those 2 videos, and I'll leave this one here. Why Iran suddenly shut its airspace and US bombers arrive in the region. This is 1 day ago. So US bombers have arrived in Qatar. They've landed. And Iran has shut its immediate airspace, especially over the capital city, because the capital city is where all the coordination takes place for their defense. It's pretty much in the center of the country, so they've got cleared that airspace around that, and they've got all their missile defense systems on high alert, and they've told any passenger flights, if you do cross that path, you will be destroyed because the missile defense systems are on high alert. Don't go there. So 0 hour is coming, and I believe that 0 hour will be in 2026, the time in which they say everything's in place. It's time to go in. Now you could apply that to a military aspect, you know, on the ground, the boots on the ground, so on and so forth, but it's also with the banking elites. They're the ones that pull the strings. They're the ones that decide when we go to war, and you're seeing that evidence of that by watching Trump, watching the psyops, and so on and so forth. So I'll leave it like that. So yeah, you got those 3 videos there. Please have a watch of those. They're not too long each, and I hope that was edifying. Like I say, it's 2026, the year of 2026, the year of apostates, and sellouts, agents, and the year of Jacob's trouble. Jacob's trouble, part of Jacob's trouble was World War III, Armageddon. So I believe this year could be the year that we go into World War III, even if the MOTB isn't quite there. That could be the thing that tips the world economic system over the balance into the bottomless pit where it disappears, and they have to create a new system, a digital system. So I hope that's edifying. I'm going to leave it right there. Until next time, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Rakak Wadash. And until next time, Shalom.